Hello there.
Hello, how you doing, Latasha?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm glad you were able to join with me tonight. All
I'm
right.
glad this Stone Age phone worked.
Yes. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I am your host, Latasha Harrison. And tonight we're going to be having a conversation. You better know who you are. And for tonight's conversation, I have someone special on the line that will be joining me. His name is Mr. James Ford. And Mr. Ford and we happen to kind of engage on Facebook with one another, different posts, and we share the same passion for different topics. And I feel that he's just a great, first of all, I believe he's very intelligent. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's just a tank full of knowledge. And I do believe he's also a great orator. But before I go any further, I just want to go ahead and let you guys meet James Ford tonight. Welcome, Mr. Ford.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing tonight?
All right.
Well, everybody, if you can hear my voice, I want you to know you already been blessed. We're on this side of the living, so let's celebrate.
Amen. I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. All right. So, James, we're gonna get started here. Again, the conversation is you better know who you are, and the reason for this discussion tonight, everyone, is that we're living in times where a lot of us are not fully aware of who we are. Um, and don't have an understanding of what that means when you were created with a purpose. Why are you here? Why are you seeing the things play out in the world today as they are? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask James some questions, and he's just going to go into some things that, like I said, we both agree about, and he's just going to elaborate on those things. So, James, the first question I'm going to ask you tonight: what was life like for you as a young man?
Um, for me, I grew up in a Christian household. My father was a mechanic for the Red Tails, and he made the Air Force his career. So we did a lot of traveling, been a lot of places, and seen a few things.
Mhm.
But my life was exciting, encouraging. They always encouraged me. Sometimes they regretted to learn words and to talk and to read.
Mhm.
And so I grew up wondering how things worked and what was what. I had to know things. Things like, was Santa Claus real? Where's the Easter Bunny? Hey, this don't seem to fit. Reindeers with red noses. I challenged things that I was told.
Yes.
Okay. But I had a loving household and a two-parent house. I have two sisters and one brother.
Mhm.
Um, you
Okay.
know,
Okay.
nieces and nephews.
Oh,
Okay.
And then I know that we spoke briefly about your father being an airman. How was that, growing up in that environment?
Um, wow. It was like we were ahead of the curve in America. I
Uh-huh.
found myself in schools where I was probably the only African American in the whole school without my brothers and sisters, and there was very few. I've seen a lot of opportunities. I've experienced subtle prejudice. I've experienced overt prejudice. I'd also experienced not just from white people, but from black people as well. Because once my father got a tour of duties over, we moved to a little town just outside of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I really had run-ins with brothers and sisters, I'm like, wow, there's so many blacks. I didn't know there's so many black people in the world. And I had to almost had to fight for 6 weeks until everybody said, okay, he's cool and I'm cool. He just talks funny.
Right.
But through it all, through the hard times and rough times where I couldn't fit in and I didn't think anybody loved me, I know there was always God.
Yeah.
I used to read this little red book. It was like a pre-Bible with pictures and stories, and I used to read them. I used to read about John the Baptist, for instance, Elijah, and the characters that both of them had, where I found out that sometimes a person doesn't fit into the norm, but understands the norm as a person that God can use the most. And the enemy will always challenge you as to who you are. God gave it in us and put everything in us for us to succeed.
Yeah.
Teachers come our way, books, pastors, what we see, what we don't like, what we do like, and people expound on that. But basically, it comes to a point where